Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel here. So this is the PC that we built a couple of weeks ago now. Recently the channel shifted into some more diverse content with gaming stuff and that, and previews, reviews, benchmarks, just more general content, so to say. And so we've shifted from just being a tech channel to being more of an all-inclusive channel. I'm not going to get too much into that. Might make a standalone video to discuss it, but for this one, just wanted to talk about this PC that we built a couple of weeks ago. So we initially cleaned this from another chassis, and then we decided to throw that chassis away because it was just too much of a mess, and took some of the parts and added a different graphics card. So right now this has that same CPU, which is, I'm not sure exactly what. Let me see if I can check it here. It is a i5-4690, which is a quad-core CPU, 4 cores, 4 processors, and an L3 cache of 6 megabytes. So it's okay for now for this kind of rig. It's not a modern CPU by any means, but still gets the job done for gaming. And then for memory, we have 16. I know you can't see anything on the screen here because of the brightness. We have 16 gigs of DDR3 Ram. Pretty slow, 1333 megahertz, but it's okay for gaming again. And then we have the 256 SSD, and we have a 2 terabyte HDD. And then in terms of graphics, this PC had the 1660 base in it, but I've already sold that card, and so I added a 970 to this, and I'm going to sell this PC soon as well. So gonna test it out now, see how it does, as I think this is a better card in this system anyway. It's more aligned with the rest of the specs, so I think it makes more sense, so to say. So yeah, we're gonna benchmark this, see how it does, and yeah, stick with me. Let's do it. Okay, so this is Doom Eternal, and I've already done the intro, so I don't need to do that again. This is running on medium graphics on HD, and you can see right off the bat we are pegged at around 60. It's a pretty good result considering this is HD. Now it is medium, and I'm sure you can push this to maybe even very high, but I'm trying to get that 60 baseline. And I feel like the graphics don't really look all that different on very high than what they do on medium. Of course, there's some better textures and that kind of stuff, but I feel like it still looks pretty good on medium. Definitely good enough for like a console equivalent experience, which is like what something like this would be. And when you're talking about pricing, I mean, I'll talk about this at the end of the video, but this didn't cost me too much. It cost me like, trying to think, like 150 plus about 100, like just under $250 for the whole thing. So really not a bad price. I don't think there's any console you can get for that price. And with something like this, you can have your productivity workflows, you can have better multiplayer experiences. It's just all around a good experience, to put it that way. And yeah, it's running really well. I mean, this is the outside area, which is more difficult to run. And we are really not even dropping to like 60. So yeah, I mean, we could definitely put this on at least high. But yeah, it looks really good as it is. This isn't the best screen, but apart from the brightness issues on the screen itself, the game looks fantastic. And yeah, it's been a fantastic experience. I'm really kind of surprised, but the game is pretty well optimized as well. Let's see how it does when we have some more creatures on screen and a lot more for the game to handle. This guy's kind of tough. Nope. I'm not doing very well. And yeah, I mean, this is a lot of fun. It's running at like 100 FPS for the most part, and I'm super impressed, to be honest. It's running so well. Taking a look at the GPU temperature over there, the GPU is at around 80, which isn't too bad. It's not fantastic, but it's okay. It is an older GPU. It has been repasted since, but yeah, I mean 80's okay. It's manageable. The GPU is working pretty hard. It's like at almost 100% utilization, and it's pulling around 120 watts. This is a 500 watt power supply. As you can see there, the CX 500, and it's a pretty old, it's an older Corsair unit, but they are really good units. Looking at the CPU, it's at around 70 degrees Celsius, which is okay. It's decent for gaming. It's a little bit high, but this is also an older CPU, and so they used to run a little bit hotter than what some of the ones do now. And CPU's at around 64% utilization, pulling around 55 watts. So altogether, we're not even pulling like 250 watts for the whole system. For the CPU and GPU, it's not even 200. So we're probably at like 200 to 250 watts for general consumption, which is pretty good. That's decent. And yeah, this is a nice little PC. Well, it's not little; it's quite big, but it's a nice PC. I'm just going to center the camera a little bit over there. I don't want to. There we go. What was I saying? Oh, it's a nice PC for someone just starting out with gaming, or someone that hasn't really experienced too much but wants to be able, like a young kid that wants to play Fortnite or get into Call of Duty multiplayer games. I'm not sure how well this would run like Modern Warfare 2, but I'm pretty sure you could run it at low pretty easily. So yeah, I think for this game specifically, it's a good result. The input latency is at around 8 to 13 milliseconds, which is pretty good. So not too bad there. And in terms of the rest, I mean, 6 gigs of RAM. This PC has 16, I think. So yeah, just overall good results, and looks nice, looks good, doesn't look low quality or low texture, and I'm pretty happy. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, getting into the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark here. So this is running on medium graphics with all of the post-processing enabled. So those are your like ambient occlusions, your screen space, obscurance, all of that kind of stuff. Hair works, all that kind of stuff, and it's running pretty well. This is a more difficult situation to run because of all the humanoids. So it's getting about like 50 to 60 here. Which is okay. It's pretty good. It looks nice. I know on the camera it doesn't look too good because of the screen's display, but in person it looks quite good. The screen's a little bit washed out there on the camera, but yeah, in person it looks quite nice. And yeah, in this scene getting around 60, similar to before, and GPU's at 80 degrees Celsius, 100% utilization, pulling around 125 watts. CPU is at 60 to 70 degrees Celsius, 60% usage more or less, 40 watts. RAM is at about 7 gigs, and still we're around that 55 FPS mark. 20 milliseconds latency there in terms of input latency. That's my cat. And yeah, a good result so far. It looks nice, it runs well. I feel like this is a good console equivalent for, when I say console equivalent, I don't necessarily mean new consoles like Xbox One, Xbox Series or PlayStation 5, but more like a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. This is more akin to that kind of console generation. Yeah, this scene didn't have any pop-in, which is a good sign. It usually does, but I think the RAM is running quite well. We have been getting around 55 frames for most of this benchmark, which is very consistent. Usually it jumps a lot more over the place, especially in this scene, but for some people, a more consistent frame rate, which is around 60, is preferable because it makes for a better experience when you're actually playing the game. The rest of the stats are still kind of similar. They're pulling a little bit more RAM now, but apart from that, it's very much the same. And yeah, just still around that 55% FPS mark there. So that's it for this benchmark. Not a bad result at all. Let's see what the average was. I'm gonna say it was about 53, 54, around there. And yeah, let's see what it says. Okay, so the average is actually 57. That's a little bit better than what I expected it to be. So yeah, definitely a good result for a PC that costs less than most console setups for equivalent consoles. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, getting into WRC racing. I think it's WRC10. I'm not sure. It's the newest one. Oh, that wasn't good. How do I? So everything is set to medium graphics with FXAA anti-aliasing and high settings in terms of the textures. So right now we're getting around 65 FPS, which is pretty good. It's not the best for a racing game, but anything above like 40, 50 FPS is more than playable. So it's not a bad result. And as you can see, I'm not very good at racing games. I don't really play them. This is just for the benchmark. And yeah, it's a decent looking game. It doesn't look too bad. But I mean, again, this is at medium graphics. So, damn, I am struggling. So the GPU is at around 80 degrees still. It's 100% utilization as it has been for most of the benchmarks. CPU is at around 75 degrees, so it's getting a little bit hotter, and at around 75 to 90 degrees usage. I mean percent usage, which is more than what it was for the previous games. And we are pulling around 70 FPS at this point. Yeah, I think it's a good result. This is more or less what the settings would be on like a PlayStation 4 and how it would look. And I feel like we're getting on those kind of systems, it would only get like 45 frames. And right now we're close to 80. Don't drop below 60 for the most part. So yeah, it's a pretty good result. I'm not going to play this for too long because as you can see, I can't. But I just wanted to try a different kind of game as well, something that I don't usually test, but that's relevant for a system like this, because this will be similar for games like Need for Speed and the Club. All of the racing games have similar sort of engines and systems, so this is a good baseline result to consider for a racing game on a PC like this. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. This is a benchmark that I like to do because it's a good baseline for performance of a system, and it's a more difficult game to run. It is aging now, but it's been a benchmark for a long time for a reason. Right now we're running everything at medium on HD, of course, and getting around 57 to 60 FPS, which is a pretty good result. It's more than playable. The rest of the stats are similar to what they were. We are pulling a little bit more RAM now, pulling around almost 9 gigs of RAM, which is pretty high. Still at that 60 FPS mark. That frame time is still consistent to what it was for most tests. And the temperature is also still around 80 and 65 for the GPU and CPU respectively. Using around 93% of the GPU here, and around 55% of the CPU. The wattages are similar to what they were in the previous tests as well, with the GPU using around what, like 120 watts, I think, and the CPU using around 40 for the most part. I mean 160 for the GPU. And so, yeah, still around that 200 watt mark for both of those. And yeah, it's pretty good. We haven't dropped below 50, I don't think, which is fantastic for this game. Now, of course, if you turn the textures high, it is going to look a lot better, but it is also going to have a big impact on that FPS. So if you want to play at 60 on a card like this, you put the textures to medium. If you're happy playing 45 around there, you know, console equivalent for the older generation of consoles, you can do high textures. Game looks a lot better, but it won't be as smooth, and you'll get around that 40 to 50 mark. This is an in-game example here, and we're getting around 55. And this is quite a busy shop in, you know, a big city, Saint Etienne. So this is a good real-world example of what performance would be. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it looks good. It runs well, and I think it's a good result overall for, you know, a PC that's not even going to cost you $300 if you include all of the peripherals. The system itself is going to be like, maybe if you're lucky, like $200, maybe $250 if you know where to look. And so you can build a PC for quite cheap. You know, it's $300 for a PC is not a lot of money, and of course it's going to be secondhand, but you know, there's not much you can get new for, you know, that amount of money. So yeah, I think this is a good result. If you're someone that wants to get into gaming, if you have a young child that wants to get into gaming, this is the kind of system that I think you should take a look at. Now, of course, it's all relative and relevant to where you are based and what the prices are. But here in South Africa, building a second-hand PC is quite affordable, and they run games quite well. So again, this is a 970. It's quite an old card at this point, but still apparently relevant. Now, this is also not the newest game, but it is still one of the toughest games to run. And I think we've only just dropped below 50 for the first time, and this is like an action scene. So yeah, I'm very happy with the result. This is going to be the last benchmark, and then I'm just going to quickly discuss the results and whether you should consider buying a PC like this. Yeah, we'll just take a look at all of the different perspectives in terms of that. So yeah, really good results. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's see what the average was. Average was 51 FPS, so that's pretty good. Maximum of 62.8, minimum of 27. So yeah, very stable, very good result. Let's talk about the PC. So that concludes my benchmarking and testing of this PC. Do I think you should try and build something like this? I think so. If you are someone that wants to get into gaming and doesn't have a lot of money, a lot of resources, this might be a good starting point for someone like that. You know, a good place to find out what kind of gaming you like, if you even like PC gaming, and just to see, you know, what it is like for yourself. A system like this is going to cost you around $250 to $300, including the peripherals. You know, you've got a nice 10 keyless keyboard that's that's cheap but sounds and feels good. Decent gaming mouse, nothing spectacular, but it works. Has like 4,800 DPI. If you like high DPI gaming. These are Marvo peripherals if you want to check them out. Good peripherals for a really good price. You know, you've got an old, old screen, 23-inch. Excuse me. And for the parts of the PC, you have the 500 watt power supply. You've got your 256 SSD, 2 terabyte HDD. You still have a DVD ROM for those of you that care about that and want to make use of that. You can. And 16 gigs of RAM. I keep forgetting the CPU, but it's a 4th gen i5, and a 970, and that's all you really need for gaming these days. you know, if you're going to play esports titles, which I didn't even benchmark, but there are a lot of esports titles like Valorant, CSGO, Rocket League, even Apex, games that are a lot easier to run than the AAA games that I tested. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with a system like this, and if you are someone that wants to get into gaming but only has the budget for something like this or a PS4 or an Xbox One, I would go for this because of the upgrade path. Obviously a chassis like this is expensive, but you don't need to use an expensive chassis. You can use something cheaper. And this is just something that I had lying around. And you know, you can have the lights, you can have the parts that you want, parts that fit your need. And these days, you know, like AMD parts especially are not expensive for really good performance. So I would recommend going with a PC like this, but it's really up to you. If you have someone that wants to get into gaming, you could recommend them something like this. So yeah, that's about it for this you know, look at this PC and discussion for it. The results were pretty good, nothing unplayable, consistent frame times and frame rates, and I'm pretty happy with it. So that's going to be it for this one. I hope to see you in the next one, and I'll release a video talking about the path of the channel pretty soon and what I plan to do with it. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Stick with me. Cheers.